The Order of the Arrow is a top secret organization? What? Hey, ScouterStan. Just want to get right into the subject today of the parents' involvement in the Order of the Arrow. But before we get too far into that, I want to personally invite you to our big live meeting that we have every month here on the channel. It's a great way for you to log in and find out more information, answer. I can usually read the questions and answer questions. Okay, or you know, that's really the whole thing. But that being the case, it's at 9 o'clock, usually on the first Sunday. I believe the next one is November 6th, and it starts at 9 Eastern time. And that way, depending on what time zone you're in, will depend on what time it will air. It's live. I also want to thank all of the people who are financially supporting the channel through Patreon. That is a wonderful thing. And also those that choose to join the channel. That's a wonderful way to help support what we do here, and you get a lot of perks. So that's one of those things. But before we go too far, I want to personally thank you for watching today. Now let's get into adults involved in the OA. Now, since we're talking about the Order of the Arrow, I have to represent. So pardon me for a moment. Yep. There we go. Now I'm in uniform. Let's talk a little bit about safety. The first thing that a scout leader should be concerned with is the safety of their scouts. That is the first thing to consider in everything that scouting does, is the safety of the youth that are involved. And to that, we actually go through that process of getting the youth protection, making sure that all the adult leaders are up to date. And we try, even the parents should know about youth protection. They can do that online. It's free. All scouts and scout leaders need to be doing that youth protection. Now, the scouts, they have their own that's done by the troop or the crew or the venture. You know, it really depends on what type of unit they're with, what kind of youth protection training they get. In all of scouting, even in the Order of the Arrow, we enforce all the policies and procedures of scouting. So parents, do not worry. Your youth are not going to be in any endangerment at all, ever. That is priority one for all scout leaders, including the OA leaders. In the OA, we like to create the mystery. It's not a secret organization. Nothing they do is top secret, especially to parents. If you're curious about what's going on and why, you have every right and an obligation to ask questions of the leadership. Find out what's going on. If you're not comfortable with it, we are not comfortable with it. So I want to make sure that that's super clear. All scout leaders are available to answer questions from parents. Now, we like to keep the mystery of the Order of the Arrow, but not at the expense of your questions being answered. And that should all start before the election at the unit. Your scout leader should have a moment to actually go over with parents what the Order of the Arrow is about. It is a part of scouting. It's officially the honor society for campers involved in scouting. That's really where the core of it comes from. What's unusual about the OA is non-members and members actually do the elections with the unit. So the unit, there may be 50% of the unit that's not even members of the Order of the Arrow that are involved in an election. That process is a wonderful learning experience for a lot of youth. But before the names are actually put on the ballot, the scout leader needs to be consulted with the parents to make sure that it's okay for that scout to be on the ballot. Now, there are additional requirements, but one of the big ones is that the unit leader needs to approve everybody that's on the ballot for the election. Now, I have a video about unit elections. Okay, I'll put the link up there. Check that out later. Okay, it'll be there at the end. Okay, it's through the rest of the video. So just check that out when you get a chance. The very next phase of that process after the election is a thing called call out or tap out. In my day, back a long time ago, we called it tap out. Mainly because the chief would be at the campfire and they did a big tapping of the shoulders. I mean, it was a big deal. Nowadays, it's just a call out. It's just names read off, and they leave the area of the campfire and go off with the order of the arrow. They've been called out because they've won the election. They had enough votes, they had the requirements, and they're getting into the process of going into the ordeal. Now, they go off, and they usually have a Cracker Barrel or a meeting of all the new candidates that are going to be going through ordeal. Now, there is a pre-ordeal. A lot of times up north, in the northern portion of the United States, there would be the tap out or the call out, and then very shortly after that, the ordeal would begin. Sometimes this is at summer camp. Sometimes it's at a fall camp out or a camporee. It could be at a spring camporee. So it really depends on the area of the country you're in. I live in the South. I live in Orlando, and we have a beautiful camp in Central Florida called Lenoche, and we do our ordeals in the winter in January. That's Florida. So that is a different type of schedule than the rest of the country. At any given time, there could be ordeals going on, whether it be spring, summer, winter, or fall. It just varies. Now, depending on the area that you're in, you need to get with the leadership, the adult leadership of that chapter. The chapter is the way they've organized, and again, I have a video. That video will tell you more about the difference between chapters and lodges and how they relate. As far as getting with the adults that run the chapter, the parents need to meet with them and find out more information. They can answer all of your questions. If there's a great deal of time between the call out, tap out, and when the actual ordeal occurs, there's usually a flyer that's handed out at that meeting. That flyer will tell the scout what to bring to the ordeal. Parents, you need to be independently away from that. Let them prepare on their own. If they forget something, that's important that they should remember, but don't be there to be constantly reminding them. They've gone camping before. They know the basics, and that's really what they need, are the basics. And it is an ordeal, and they are on their own. And that includes getting ready. Now, the big day has arrived, the ordeal. Parents, please drop off your scouts and exit. Do not prolong that. Do not hang around with the scout. They're in good, capable hands. They're totally safe. There's not going to be any problems. Drop them off and skedaddle. The reason for that is quite simple. If you stick around, they need to get to know the group that they're going to be with through their ordeal. And if you're around, they're more likely to hang out with you. So go. Don't hang around. Just move on. Make sure that you have written down or put in your cell phone or something like that a reminder to pick that scout up and what time to do that. That's very important. This is not like a normal camporee. This is something where they may want them picked up later in the day versus earlier. So, check with the chapter, see what they have planned. There might be a meeting after all of this. So that's something that you need to talk with the leadership. Do that before you leave, okay? But definitely move on. Now, after the ordeal, parents, you are more than welcome to ask any question you want from your youth. There are no secrets, okay, between parents and scouts. None, okay? They should be able to talk to you about all the things that happen. Try to make sure the scout doesn't dwell a whole lot on the struggle. There is a struggle. That's all part of the ordeal. And make sure that they learn from that struggle. That's really the core value of an ordeal. And they only do it once. They never do it again. They never have to do it again. One time. Now, later, when you get into a thing called an illegomat is somebody who has gone through the process, has gone through the whole thing, and they are there as an example. So they're not going through another ordeal. They're going through an ordeal with other scouts. They've already done that. So they're there as a friend, as an example. So that's a totally different, and you know what? I have a video on that one. So go up there. I have videos on everything. But it's amazing, all the different facets that go on in the ordeal. Now, I know a lot of parents want to be at the ceremony at the end of the ordeal. We don't recommend this because a lot of the things that are involved with scouting is we want them to be on their own. We want independent scouts without the family there watching and taking photographs and making a big. That is not this. This is not any other kind of ceremony that you might be familiar with. We want the scout to think about themselves on their own. So that's the important bit. So there's not an open invitation to non-members to be at that ceremony. There will be plenty of adult leaders at that ceremony, but keep in mind that that ceremony is for the scout. And that's it, not the family. So a lot of times people get confused about that. It's really important that the scout has this experience. Now with post-ordeal, afterwards, they're meant to go back and give leadership to their unit. So if it's a troop, they need to get into being a patrol leader, senior patrol leader, something of that nature, or even a den chief. That's a wonderful position of leadership. These are leadership positions we expect our scouts to go through, and it's also how they can progress through their ranks. So that is very important. If they're in a crew or on a ship, there's leadership positions available. So they need to do that. So make sure that leadership experience does not get put aside. They need to use what they've learned from the ordeal. As a leader, they need to use that, and that's very important. As parents, we need to encourage them to take on these responsibilities. I know that scouting is a learning process. It's a safe place. It's a safe environment to learn. And that's what we need to do as adults, helping our youth have these experiences. It's very important that they have those. Now, after a period of time, there's a thing called Pre-Brotherhood. That's where parents need to encourage their scouts to seal their membership. And that's where they go through classes. It's usually a weekend. They go through classes and there's a ceremony. They get a new sash. There's a lot to that. But they never go through ordeal again. Ordeal is once. They only do it once. You only do your ordeal once. That's it. Never do it again. That's the thing about it. So a lot of scouts that don't come back after ordeal, they think ordeal is all we do. No, no. You only do it once, and after you've completed your ordeal, that's it. Brotherhood is talking about the ordeal, finishing that membership process, and then going into brotherhood. Okay, going from an ordeal member to a brotherhood member. It's just that simple. They don't have to go through an ordeal again to do brotherhood. So that one time. And as adults, we need to make sure that the youth understand that they can progress. And the neat thing about the Order of the Arrow, it's all of the older scouts, and they do more stuff that's not scout skill related, okay? Like they do at a camp out or a camporee. This is leadership training that is advanced, okay? And there's a lot of really advanced concepts that are handled within the Order of the Arrow membership process. And as parents, we need to guide our youth in a safe way, a positive way, to do this type of training. We need this. And as scout leaders, I know you do a lot for your scouts. I know you work really hard at giving them those opportunities. The Order of the Arrow is another opportunity for them to learn really advanced skills in leadership. So definitely do not try to avoid the Order of the Arrow. The Order of the Arrow is a part of scouting. Definitely get them involved. Every scout that I know that have taken advantage of all of the really great skills that are involved in the Order of the Arrow, they love it. They absolutely, they gravitate towards that, and they think it's the best thing there is in scouting. And I can't disagree completely. I love the Order of the Arrow, and I really encourage you to get more involved. So with that, I want to make sure that you know that I appreciate all that you do for scouting, and I will see you on the trail.